You are listening to Lufa, Dancer of Shadows, the case of the missing beast touched, available weekly on TikTok and YouTube Shorts. This is an audio-visual novel powered by AI. Narration is done using narrator's voice, available on the Google Play Store. Artwork is done using AI art tools. Imagine and wonder. Script is written by Google Bard. Lufa, Dancer of Shadows is directed and put together by Frostbright Productions. In the heart of Trent City, a city ravaged by crime and corruption, there lived a detective unlike any other. His name was Mikkel Lufa, and he was a beast-touched. Beast-touched were people born with animalistic features, such as fur, horns, or tails. They were often feared and ostracized by humans, but Lufa was different. He was proud of his heritage, and he used his unique abilities to protect the innocent. Lufa had the uncanny ability to see events after they happened, like silhouettes in his mind's eye. This ability made him a formidable detective, but it also came at a cost. The people in his visions were always just shadows, never revealing their true identities. Lufa's ability earned him the nickname Dancer of Shadows. He was a master of moving through the shadows, both literally and figuratively. He tries to be one step ahead of the criminals, and he is always ready to strike. Lufa is the perfect detective for a city like Trent City. He is a beacon of hope in the darkness, and he is determined to make the city a safer place, one case at a time. However, there has been one case that continues to haunt him even to this day. Lufa, Dancer of Shadows. The case of the missing beast touched. Prologue. The shadows danced on the walls of the alleyway, casting eerie shapes and patterns. Mikkel Lufa, the beast-touched detective, moved through the darkness like a ghost, his footsteps muffled by the damp cobblestones. He had been tracking his quarry for hours, following the faint trail of magic that led through the maze of alleyways and back streets. The killer was cunning and elusive, but Lufa was determined to catch him. He came to a halt outside a dilapidated warehouse. The door was slightly ajar and a sliver of light spilled out into the alleyway. Lufa drew his revolver and crept towards the building, his senses on high alert.
"I've been expecting you,"
he said in a voice that was like the rasp of dry leaves. Lufa stepped into the warehouse and closed the door behind him. The killer smiled, revealing a mouthful of sharp, yellow teeth.
"Welcome to the game,"
he said. Lufa raised his revolver and took aim.
"It's over,"
he said.
"Surrender now."
The killer laughed.
"Oh, but it's just begun.
He said.
And I'm afraid you're not going to like the rules."
He snapped his fingers and the warehouse was plunged into darkness. Lufa fired his revolver, but his bullets went wild in the gloom. He heard the killer's laughter echoing through the darkness.
"You can't run from me. I'm always one step ahead,"
the killer said. Lufa cursed under his breath. He knew that the killer was right. He was trapped in a deadly game and the stakes were high. He took a deep breath and focused his senses. He could hear the killer's footsteps moving around him, but he couldn't see him. He had to rely on his special ability to see events unfold as they happen like silhouettes. He closed his eyes and concentrated. He saw the killer's silhouette moving towards him, a knife raised in his hand. Lufa opened his eyes and dodged just in time as the knife blade sliced through the air. He fired his revolver again, and this time his bullet hit the killer in the chest. The killer staggered backwards and fell to the ground, dead. Lufa stood over the killer's body, his chest heaving. He had won the game, but at a terrible cost. The killer had been just a pawn in a larger game, and Lufa knew that the real mastermind was still out there. He vowed to find the mastermind and bring him to justice. no matter the cost. But first, he had to deal with the aftermath of the day's events. He had to find the missing beast touched and bring them to safety, and he had to find a way to live with the guilt of taking an innocent life.